What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Did you beat your wife? Did you kick a pup? We'll find your crimes and rake it up. Did you laugh at Hubbard? That's not nice, and now you'll have to pay your price. So what are your crimes, Mark? What have you done? Oh, it's too late now. Fair game's begun.
What have I done? No, my friends. The question is not what have I done, is what did Garry Scarff do? Because we're going to talk about Garry Scarff tonight, a troubled individual, and we'll get into that in a bit. I've got an interview with him conducted by our German filmmaker friend Peter Reichelt, who, as you remember, was the person that I rode along with when the hammer attack happened in Clearwater. So Peter's been doing all these interviews that I've been upscaling. The interview we watched with Stacy and the two-parter with Jesse, and this one is an interesting one, and I will delve into why it is so interesting after I say, well, I don't have to put my hand up there anymore. I know that all I could have to do is come down here to the little touchpad, of course, and that I can get where I need to be, which is right there, so I can see your comments. Lupita's here. Hi, Lupita. Let's see. Cat's Meow. Nice to see you. All right. So, I met Garry when I first started videotaping protests in LA back in '99. And Garry had been in Scientology and then out and then seemingly back again. And then, I don't know. It's such a checkered history he had. And he makes claims, and he's going to talk about this in the video. He claims that Scientology wanted him to murder Cynthia Kisser, the head of the then Cult Awareness Network. So we've got, I think, an interesting roller coaster ride here. And as we play that video of his interview, I just have to say, it's hard to trust anything that Garry says, because Garry made up a lot of stories throughout his career, whether it was in the service of Scientology or not. He was continually going back and forth, helping filmmakers and then screwing filmmakers at the same time. Capital call out. I don't believe I've ever seen you here. Good evening, Mark. Good to see all of us. Well, you're right. It is good to see everybody. Denny Sue, normally a lurker in the air, right out in the open. What do you know? Nice to see you. Welcome to you. Look at all these new folks here. It's great. Tana Toffin. I like that. I hope I'm getting that right. Or is it Tana, like Lana Turner? They should force truth serum on these people. Yeah, well, plenty of things were forced on Garry, I think, over the years. But ultimately, when I met him, it was a contentious time where he was really upset that anyone would dare to protest on L. Ron Hubbard Way. And you'll see a little bit of that in some video that I shot. JB808 is here, everybody. Say hello to JB808. Nice to see you. Yeah, he's oh, Marcy's here. Hey, Marcy. Hey, all, she says. We all say hey. Oh, the Elk of Antioch. Hail, Lord Bunker of Farsec. Thank you. As well, you should. Capital call out is a longtime lurker and listener. Usually I don't have my keyboard. I have problems with that sometimes too. Let's see. Okay. I think I'm caught up. All right. So, for those just joining us, I've been just chatting a little bit about the fellow we're going to listen to tonight, Garry Scarff, and he's not an easy fellow, but ultimately, by a few years after I met him, he seemed to have apologized or tried to make amends for a lot of the lies and a lot of the betrayals that happened throughout the 90s, especially. And we'll take a look at. Yes, I do have that here. We'll take a look at some of his history, but I thought we'd start first by listening to Marcy, who says, "Don't forget to hit that like button." She almost did, or he. So, could be anybody. Thank you. Thank you for doing Kelly's job. I don't know why she dropped the ball, because Kelly is usually the consummate professional. Batting over the head with that. Hit the like, subscribe, share. Hey, check out that merch store. She's good at that. Moose on the Loose is here. Hello, Moose. There you go. LOL, I am a she. I've always assumed you were, but it looks like a couple of guys there in the photo, so I never know. Maybe it's a French, a Marseille. I don't know. But thank you for clarifying that for me. Let's see. I find it funny that David Miscavige cried when L. Ron Hubbard made him use the e-meter and confess he stole money from him going to Vegas whoring and gambling. Ha ha. What? Did that happen? Is that something in the history of Scientology that I've missed? That Hubbard got him on the e-meter and Slappy confessed he stole money? Wow. Oh, those are Marcy's boys. I had a feeling it was. I should have asked you the first time I saw the picture. I should have just said, "Hey, who's in the picture?" Thank you for clarifying. And Kelly, of course, the consummate host, once again, handsome young men, Marcy. Moose, you think they're getting the message yet? Hit that like. Come on. Let me take a look at this. Gina Marie Torino. Hi, all. Important bill, SB 832. It limits statutes and puts more burden of proof on the victims. We can stop it. Oh, God, there's a whole lot of stuff we need to stop. So is this a federal bill? I'm assuming it is. Yep. Call your representatives. Get them on the phone and say, "Hello, I'm Bullwinkle J. Muth." Yeah. And then hang up and call them back again and say, "Hey, take care of that bill. We don't want that to pass." It's not stealing if you spend the money on hookers and slot machines. It's in the Bible, says the Elk of Antioch. It's good to know. Gina Marie Torino. Hi, Mark. I did meet you in Clearwater. I thought your picture looked familiar there. Justice. Hello, Mr. Mark. Hope you had enough sleep. Not enough, but I got some. So about an hour ago, I was starting to nod off, and I thought, "Oh, I better get a nap." And then I said, "Nope, I got to put this thing together. We're going to make this one for the record books." Uh-oh. Now it's a mantra. Like, and we're gonna pounce on you if you don't like. So just be aware. Goblin A. Oops. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, see, Kelly's even, spelling it out. It's the easiest way to support me. So John has L. Ron Hubbard's personal notes. I have to admit, I don't know who John is. Which John are you talking about? Fill me in. So there's Goblin AFK. Nice to see you here. Okay. Justice is making the important case that don't just like, but also subscribe, people. Subscribe. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. All right. So I met Gary in 99, as I said, and at that point he was really angry at any type of critic. And this is the mode that I remember him in most of the time I saw him. He was just getting on our case, and he was following me around as I was shooting. One of the critics wanted to go into the little store across the street. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but there used to be a little store by Big Blue where you could pick up your dictionaries and all of your other supplies, kind of like the one-stop shop at a much smaller scale. And I followed this other critic in there as he was looking around, and I was shooting some video, and Gary was following us. What are you doing? Oh, John Atack. Okay, well, thank you. Good to know. Oh, I guess you must be talking about Gina says, I'm getting a list from my paralegal at Herman Law Firm. They won $880 million from an archdiocese in L.A. And I know there's been talk of, going after Scientology on the child molestation cases with the template of, how the Catholic Church has been taken on. So, and that's good. It's a smart thing to do, and I wish them all the best success. Who's saying good evening? Haggis Basher is here. Nice to see you. Did you know Marcy was a gal? Did you? I bet you did. Just in case, though, because some of us just weren't sure. I don't want to name names. It could be embarrassing if you're not sure one way or the other. Okay. So I have a little footage I shot of Gary from this period. Hey, you never know. That's true. That's true. Could be like that. What was the name of that film? Oh, for God's sakes. I can see the poster. There was a great movie where the female lead, it was a mystery, a thriller. The female lead was a singer in a nightclub, and partway through, you find out some secret about her. The Crying Game? I think that was it. The Crying Game. And you didn't even have to type that in there, you folks watching me. I came up with that at the last moment. Well, I said it at the last moment that I stopped forgetting about it. As soon as I said it. So it could have been another last moment farther down the line. Yes, wow, good film. It's a great movie, I think. And I saw somebody made a YouTube video the other day about, these are films that will never be seen again. And I looked at the list and went, well, you can find most of these films anywhere. And one that he added to it was The Crying Game. We'll never see The Crying Game again. Well, got it on my hard drive if you want to come over and watch it. Let's see. Oop. Kelly, YouTube fan. YouTube. My mouth wants to say YouTube. Sorry. Kelly, YouTube fan. Hi, Mark, mods, and chat. Sorry I'm late. Replay crew for me. Well, I'm just kind of kibitzing. So you didn't miss much. And Haggis Basher owns that DVD. I can go find it right now. Ha, 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 ha. Well, don't do that, because stay around and watch this. When we're done, then you can go watch it. Thanks for the shout out. You got it. Well, I did know this, that L. Ron Hubbard said that Xenu was going to come in and give us implants and then package us up. Interesting. Yeah, well, yeah, that's all part of OT3. And they also, you get strapped into a chair at an IMAX movie theater, or the biggest IMAX screen you've ever seen, and you're in there for how many days? 6 days, something like that. The film that plays is only a helicopter that's about to crash and never does. So that's why they have to strap you in. You can't even get up for popcorn. But when you get to the Martian implant station, that's one of the highlights, actually. You get to sit down in a movie theater at least. Let's see. Okay. All right. So back to Garry Scarff. So this video that I shot, I added a little context, and it's only a couple minutes of video that I have of Gary, but back in, I don't know if it was the 80s or early 90s, probably early 90s, he was on a local TV show that was doing a segment on Jonestown. And he was there as a survivor of Jonestown. And he talked about how painful it was. He escaped, but his wife and kids and dad didn't. They all perished. And he gave a big interview about this and did it elsewhere as well. He was never at Jonestown. He wasn't. This was all a lie, big lie, as much of what Gary has said is lies. But, apparently Scientology wanted him to infiltrate the Cult Awareness Network. So he told them that he was a survivor of Jonestown. And then Cynthia Kisser, who was the head of the Cult Awareness Network at the time, before Scientology sued it out of existence and took it over. Gary's going to tell about a plot that OSA had that they wanted him to carry out. And I'll let Gary tell you about that in this vintage interview that we have. But let me first show you this video from L. Ron Hubbard Way in 1999. And you can see a little clip from that TV show. I have the full show somewhere. I just could not find it. But I'm still digging. But at least there's a segment so you can see what it was like.
With me this morning here in Action News Conference, a former member of the People's Temple. His name is Garry Scarff.
When I defected, I was shot, and I have a scar on my arm, which has the scar where the bullet.
Oh, see it.
Okay, it's
All right. Yeah, and here's my first encounter with him.
Hey Gary, what brings you here today?
I'm here to hopefully make this the last picket here on L. Ron Hubbard Way. It's nice if you have people exhibiting their right to free speech. That's one thing, but when people come down here just to get themselves on camera and to look good, for example, Dennis Ehrlich, who's not carrying a sign at all, he's just trying to look big here on our Hubbard Way, then nothing is accomplished. I mean, what you're doing is disrupting operations here, and it's just a waste of time. So you guys are having your fun. You're having your fun with the picket signs and mocking the people here, but you're not proving anything, and you're not helping anybody. So have your fun. It's a nice day, because that's about all that this is worth.
Well, then why are you here?
I'm observing.
For who?
Huh?
For
myself.
Who?
For myself. Why do I have to observe on behalf of anybody?
You don't have to. I was just curious. I mean, you seem to be holding these people in contempt for what they're doing.
No, I don't hold them in contempt, but it's a waste of time. I have no contempt against these people. I used to picket myself.
Oh, and he did go and get an OSA Spy t-shirt made up for himself because everyone was saying, don't talk to Gary. Gary's an OSA Spy. So there's my mixed message for you. I'm telling you that he's an OSA Spy. Well, I'm saying on screen, it's not meant to say he's an OSA Spy. Because again, you know, it's tricky when somebody's been bouncing around. And there's a video, there's another show. I don't know if you've watched Missing in Happy Valley, the German documentary that Peter Reichelt made. There's another one he made that I haven't seen in a while, but it opens pretty much with Gary crying at the, like, sitting behind a car, as I remember, and he's having like some sort of breakdown, and it's one of those things where, is this real or not? Is this all staged? So I'm hoping I can find that. I think Peter's got to have it up somewhere, but I haven't seen a decent copy of it. But what I do have is this interview that Peter did in '98. Now, I couldn't upscale this one to 4K because the footage that we had of the interview with Jesse Prince and Stacy Brooks, they had a pretty decent standard definition video of the interview. This one only exists as a work print. So the interview initially had a huge time code right above his head. And it's a second or third generation, so the picture quality was pretty crappy. And the sound was nearly inaudible. So what I did do is I cropped the image so you don't get distracted by the time code, and I cleaned up the sound, and it may occasionally, especially right at the beginning of the interview, sound a little tinny for a few words. But it gets better, and believe me, now you can hear it. If you went to Peter's website and saw the original, it's very hard to hear. In fact, I was going to play that for you, and Kelly can tell you all about this, because right before I went on the air here with this, I downloaded a copy of that so I could show you, well, this is how horrible it looked before, and now look at the wonderful work I've done. Everybody bow down before me. I'm a master. But I lost the video somewhere on my hard drive, so you get the idea. It sucked before, it's good now. Well, better. I can't rave about my work here, but you can hear it, and that's the interesting thing. And now you should know, again, I'm not vouching for anything that Gary says in this interview. Right from the beginning, he's gossiping about people that I would come to know, like Bob Minton, Stacy Brooks, Grady Ward, and he's saying, well, Bob hates Grady, and Bob seemed to be very fond of Grady, so I don't know. So let's get to that. However, I just want to see anybody else new come in? J-Bat. How about that? We haven't seen J-Bat. I haven't said hi to J-Bat, have I? Room raid from the Declared Dave channel. Oh boy, welcome to you all. Thanks for coming by. All right. So I don't think I can put this off anymore. Let's listen to Gary. And if you have enough of this at some point, just let me know, and we can shut it down and watch cartoons or something. But here comes Gary.
See, Graham was on, but Graham is an attorney. He doesn't want to lose a relationship with all the people that are together about Scientology.
Yeah.
So Graham was afraid of upsetting Stacy, but he doesn't want to piss off Vaughn. So it's complicated. So everyone's taking sides now.
So Vaughn, he's referring to as Robert Vaughn Young, Stacy's husband. And this has to be in the period where Bob and Stacy kind of hooked up.
So, and Bob Benton doesn't like Graham.
No.
Graham met Bob. Graham has called in numerous times and Bob doesn't return phone calls. And plus, I hear things that Graham doesn't hear about, which pisses him off. Because he's always calling and saying, what did they say? What did they say? Because I hear things that he doesn't hear.
Yeah.
Bob Minton likes me, but
They must
Vaughn
be
hates him. So it's like, no,
Oh,
I don't
boy.
want to get in the middle of all this. But folks, Vaughn likes me, and Stacy loves me, but now they're fighting. So Vaughn will call me up. Did Stacy call you? Where's she at? And I can't tell him because Stacy said, don't tell him where I'm at. So they pull me in the middle of all this shit. So I got to stop being a nice guy. It's like everybody wants to hide things. Okay, what are we talking about?
So we have been at the OSA headquarters regarding the order from OSA to kill Cynthia Kissel.
Right.
And you wanted to talk to Ingram regarding the thing because you feel not very good.
No, I didn't.
How did that develop, that story?
I, first of all, was very confused.
So he's asking about Eugene Ingram, who was the fired, disgraced LA cop who became the top fair game PI for Scientology for a long time, doing most of the dirty work emanated from Ingram. So
Confused about whether the fact they were really telling me to kill Scientology because it's something I've never heard before. And Eugene was someone that I could trust, that I thought I could trust. And I said, Eugene, do they really want me to kill this guy? And his response was, sure, why you? What? You big deal. And he said that he had rental property in Mexico that he owned. He also had family in South America. And he said, don't worry. To him, it wasn't a matter of how bad I felt or questioned about killing Percy. His mind process was, how are we going to help you once you kill him? And so instead of getting what I was hoping was, let's talk about your feelings about killing somebody, he was more interested on how are we going to get you away once you do kill, because we're going to have to get you out of the country. And so he was talking about going to rental property he had in Mexico that he owned, or going to South America where he had family. And he said, I will send you to Brazil, or I will send you to Mexico. We'll get you out of the country, so once you kill her and the authorities find out, they can't do anything to you. Well, anyone knows about killing somebody in America, a lot of these countries have treaties where they can extradite citizens back to the United States for killing somebody. And I knew about that. But he's saying, if you kill her, Scientology will protect you. They have friends everywhere. They'll protect you. And I said, well, what happens if they catch up to me before then? then he told me about TKO, total knockout. Putting the gun in my mouth, up to the gum, and pulling the trigger, which goes to the gum, up into my brainstem, dislodges the brainstem, and blows my brains out. And he laughed. He says, well, you won't necessarily die from it, but it'll knock your brain out to the extent that you'll be a vegetable. You won't feel anything. You won't know anything. You won't be of use to anybody. Basically, your life will be over anyway. It's painless. You just pull the trigger, you blow your brains out. I thought it was very interesting that someone that I trusted and loved to the extent that I did was telling me, one, I needed to kill Cynthia Kisser, and two, I could always depend on Scientology to get me out of the country to evade law enforcement authorities should they have found out that I was the one that did it. And three, if law enforcement was catching up to me, Scientology would still protect me by providing me a gun with which I could kill myself. That shows you the value that Scientology has toward life. And whether it's my situation or any other situation where people have died in Scientology, that's how they view human life. Human life can be taken, it can be destroyed as long as the agenda for Scientology remains intact. If it benefits Scientology, it doesn't matter whether I kill myself or I kill somebody else. It helps Scientology. And because Scientology's purpose is to clear this planet, then they're willing to do anything necessary, even to the point of killing somebody to make it happen. And to me, at that time, I remember how troubled that I was and how upset that I was and how much I wanted to get back to Portland, to my home. And even then I was thinking, I need to get out of this situation. I need to remove myself from this situation. And then later on, it was brought to my attention that, oh, it's not just Cynthia, but you need to air it up. It's also Fergie, Richard. And I remember flying on the plane back to Portland and spending a lot of time on that plane crying, thinking, how did I get myself in this situation? Why do people that I looked upon as family, was people that I trusted and loved, why all of a sudden are telling me now that I used to do something so criminal, was so hurtful towards someone else? And then even telling me it's okay just to kill myself, Rich. I mean, what value did I have to them? So there's a lot of conflicting emotions going through my mind. At the same time, though, I wanted to be a hero to them. I wanted to impress them. I wanted them to love me and to think of we as part of their family core. And so, like I said, I was conflicted because while I was hurt over the fact that they told me to kill someone, I also wanted to kill her because they told me that was necessary to do that. But that's not how true.
How it went on? You went to Chicago on?
No, I didn't go to Chicago. I stayed in Portland. And the next day after that, I spoke to a priest in Portland. And it was a friend of mine. He's a Catholic priest. And I told him what had happened. And I don't know whether he really fully believed me because, you know, people, when they think church, stuff like this doesn't happen in a church. And so I thought about it, and I just stayed very quiet about it. I said nothing. It was a months later, and this is after days and weeks of being harassed by Scientologists to contact the Los Angeles branch. People were to talk to me, and I told them I was sick, I needed time off, I was depressed, and I kept avoiding them. That finding the pressure got so intense that I needed to fly out to Los Angeles. That I contacted the Cultural Awareness Network, and I just had a very short conversation with Cynthia Kisser, who at that time was very afraid of me. And I said, just have one of your lawyers contact me, it's very important. And she asked me, why is it important? And I said, because they put a contract up on their life. Have one of your lawyers contact me. And it was just a couple hours after that that I got a very, very angry phone call from one of her lawyers. And the first thing he said is, "My name is Dan Leipold. You are a Scientologist, and I don't trust you. I don't like you. I just want you to know that. But I'm willing to hear what you have to say." And I said, "Well, one, I don't give a shit whether you like me or not. I don't care whether you trust me or not. But if you don't talk to me, your client might end up dead." And from that point on, we met, Keith Lynn Cortland, and I spoke to Court County. What?
Dan Leipold, by the way, was a terrific guy. He was working on several cases, big cases, and he had he worked with Bob a lot, Bob Minton, and he would visit the LMT from time to time, and I stopped into his office at least once, and he had said that he broke down the hierarchy and got through all the front groups and all that kind of stuff, and he had charted out the way to take down Scientology. Unfortunately, he didn't share that with us, and it was going to come out in a court case, and then he had I think a heart attack and died, which was a shame because he was a good guy. Even if he didn't take down Scientology, it's a shame that he died because I like the guy. And as long as I have paused here, somebody asked earlier, Jeff, if you have any more that you'd like to say about, Scarff going in and out. I did talk a lot about that before starting the video. And here we go. Here's the most important question. Quick off topic. Last of Us Season 2 premiered last night, Episode 1. It sure did. Did I have a chance to watch it? No. And I will probably watch it tonight after this. In fact, I'm just going to close this down now and go watch it. That would be irresponsible. But I'm looking forward to seeing it. Okay. So let's go back to more of Gary. And again, sorry for the quality of the sound going in and out. It's trying to make up words that it couldn't hear at all. So that's, yeah. So that's why it's kind of sucks, but it's at least listenable. Well, thank God, Marcy, that you didn't see it. I don't want anybody giving us spoilers, okay? Nobody. I just saw a headline in the Huffington Post. Oh, major something or something happened, and I said, the headline is enough. I'm not clicking on that. So Jeff says the only reason I can assume Gary liked attention, so he could get it from both sides. Yeah, and I don't know. It seems like he also may have feasted off of everybody's contempt for him. Although I did, I don't know if you were here when I showed the little video that I shot of Gary back in '99 when he came to one protest with a T-shirt that said "Osa Spy" on it. That's the one thing I liked about Gary is he made that T-shirt. At one of the Clearwater protests, maybe in '96, he was protesting with us, but we also caught him talking secretly with Scientology PIs. There you go. Yeah, that's why you can't trust anything Gary says, even from beyond the grave. But I was reading, Tony Ortega's piece when he found out that Gary had died. He had nice things to say about him, acknowledging all the crap in the past, but that he had tried to make amends for much of it. As a matter of fact, as long as we're pausing, who is Gary? Garry Scarff is a notorious fella who was in and out of Scientology. He claimed to be part of Jonestown, a survivor from that. And I brought up this little article. Let me see if I can share this. Well, I certainly think I can. Let's give it a shot. So this, I called the name of this video. I stole the name of this article that is on the web, The Strange Case of Garry Scarff. And this was written by Rebecca Moore. I'm only going to read just a tiny bit of it. But it reminded me that I actually saw Rebecca Moore speak in San Diego at one point. She is affiliated, or was affiliated, with the San Diego State University, SDSU. And she specialized in Jonestown, and she wrote a book on Jonestown. Oh, were you able to see that, or is that popping up for you? Because I just looked back here, it's not on the screen. Come on, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Do I have to share this? All right. Well, somebody just tell me, when I have this up like this, can you see the article? Or are you seeing me asking you, can you see the article? And now I'm going to go back to StreamYard and see the answer. Boom. We see vid still. Okay. Can you please get out of the way? Something else popping up here from Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows. Can I drag you off to the side? No, you won't even leave me. So it's blocking. Oh, there we go. Got rid of it. It's interesting. It says it's on the stage. Let me remove that. And then, no, still not there. All right, everybody. Look at me, everyone. Look at me. I'm going to read you just a little bit of this article. And as I mentioned, I went to see Rebecca Moore talking about Jonestown, probably at the university. And it was not a big room. It was maybe 30, 40 people in there. And she was kind of apologizing for all the attacks that have been made on Jonestown. She was kind of siding with Jim Jones, which, what? Huh? I remember challenging her in the room. I don't remember any of the specifics of what she said that set me off, or exactly what I said. I just remember being kind of outraged that all these people died, and she's kind of making excuses for it. But still, I still respect her enough to read what she had to say about Gary here. So I'm going to scroll down here. Watch me as I scroll down, even though you can't see me scroll. Due caution, if not paranoia, may be the best way to deal with the enigmatic figure of Gary, who seems to drift from cult to anti-cult and back again. We have wanted to alert readers to the problem with A Light at the End of the Tunnel by Garry Scarff, an article that he wrote about his time in Jonestown. Ever since we learned that the article was probably faked, the history of its publication and the subsequent reports about its author are both fascinating and disquieting. They hint at the hidden maneuverings of both cult and anti-cult factions. They found out about Gary because Leo J. Ryan's daughter, Patricia Ryan, agreed to write an article for them on Jonestown, and then also said, hey, you should talk to Cynthia Kisser, the executive director of the Cult Awareness Network at that time, where Leo J. Ryan's daughter served on the board of directors. And Kisser expressed interest in this book project about Jonestown, and she guided these folks to Garry Scarff, who said that he had belonged to the People's Temple. And it was only later, much later, that it was discovered that he was lying completely about that. And according to Tony Ortega's article about him, he did send out an apology to a lot of people, and including to this woman I was just reading from her article. She wasn't sure whether she should accept it or not, but Tony said he certainly seemed to be contrite and honest about him wanting to make amends right there toward the end of his life. Well, that's good to know that you could just read in the reflection of my glasses. It's wild that one person go from one cult to another cult. Interesting what a psychologist would analyze that person's brain and mental function. Well, I don't think it's necessarily unheard of for people to go from one cult to the next. But bear in mind, Gary Scarff is who we're talking about. Garry Scarff was not at Jonestown. He was not a member of Jim Jones' group at all. He lied about that. But other people have bounced from cult to cult like that. I remember working with a woman in LA who, finally told me, well, I'm a Scientologist, and this is not the gal that I used to hang around with, who was a good friend of mine. It was another one of our coworkers who said, hey, I was in Scientology. And she then became part of the group that the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh started up in the Pacific Northwest. I'm sure somebody knows exactly where that was. Was it Oregon? I can't remember. But the Bhagwan was quite a case. And she was furious all these years later after that cult dissolved. She was going, they killed my Bhagwan. They killed my Bhagwan. So, Antelope, Oregon. There you go. Thank you, Jeff. You can always count on Jeff. He knows everything. I stumble around and accidentally, once in a while, have a fact that I can share with you. But Jeff is a scholar, and he does actual research. Okay, and look, these are all Kelly. Kelly is busy putting all these links up there. It's a good idea because Mark could use some support right now. So I'm just saying, not begging. I'm just saying. Let's see, Haggis Basher. That is what happened with the gentleman who wrote "Falling from a Pink Cloud." His family went from one cult to another. Yeah, see, I don't think it's incredibly unusual. You're looking for something, and if this isn't it, Oh, just gave me that little circle again. I thought it was going to crash immediately. So, I'm a Mac guy. Most of my computers are Macs. I needed a laptop, and so I went with a Windows. And in the middle of this stream, it decided, hey, we need to update Windows. Well, shouldn't you ask me first? Lordy. Yes, hi, everyone. Hey. It's nice to be back here. Let's see. Okay. Well, as I was saying, I don't know. I'm sure I was saying something. I guess we were talking about people going from cult to cult. I've said all I need about that. Let me. Oh, I gotta bring the video back up here. If you even want to watch more of this video.
See, Gray.
And let's see where we left off. I'm not sure how far we got.
That person is removed from his post. He's used of RPF. He sent a happy vow.
Don't remember that.
And of Scientology lawyers and officials, my word meant nothing. His attorney's office anti-ist. Well, you can say it, and they didn't creativity. And in my meeting with the Culture's Network attorney, I put that out all on record. And it was the basis of the stuff that I talked to me.
Really, have we
and I
been
told him
listening
I was
to
sick,
like 8
I needed
minutes of
time
this?
off. I was depressed. And I kept voting them that finding the pressure got so intense that I needed to fly out to Los Angeles.
Have you folks heard this before?
That
He was talking about Dan
contacted
Leipold.
the Culture's Network. And I just had a very short conversation with Suti Kisser, who at that time was very afraid of me. And I said, just have one of your lawyers contact me. It's very important.
Okay, I heard
And
that
she
before. FYT 54321. You're not as late as you think. But you did miss the excitement of me losing my connection to the web. But we're back here, and now I'm fumbling around trying to find where we left off. So I remember this part.
Judge ordered it to be continued in the courthouse to make sure that Scientology is disrupted. And then that led to another deposition. It has to happen physically
where's Dan
before we
Leipold?
can investigate. That's the way it is here.
Come on, where's Dan
Yeah.
Leipold?
From what I was told by the police officials here in the United States, I should have gone to Chicago. I should have creativity.
I don't remember any of that.
In my meeting with the Culture's Network attorney, I put that out all on record. And it was the basis of the stuff that I submitted into the court record that caused so much commotion, not only in this deposition, which had to be canceled because Scientology attorneys disrupted it. Even Eugene Ingram jumped up and threatened to assault the attorney. A federal judge ordered it to be continued in the courthouse to make sure that Scientology is disrupted. And then that led to another deposition.
Just checking. Have you heard this part before? Is this something that that has played already? It seems like it should. It seems like this is going on and on and on.
In the Fishery Years case, which lasts 17 days, or was 17 days over a 60-day period, because Scientology went to such extremes to threaten me bodily harm, to disrupt the hearings and stuff. So, I mean, it just grew from that.
And why did the police or district attorney not started to investigate against the Office of Special Affairs, Code Violent, or even David Miscavige regarding that order to kill somebody? Because that's usual normally. If it comes out court.
Not in the United States. In the United States, you have to understand we're a democracy. Everyone has rights. It's your word against my game. And I was told by the district attorney's office in Los Angeles, well, you can say it, and they will say they didn't say it. So where's the evidence? We can't investigate unless there's evidence. And I remember talking to this deputy district attorney, and I told this person, I said, so what you're telling me is we need to kill Cynthia Kisser first before you'll investigate. Is that correct? And she said, basically, that's true. Something has to happen physically before we can investigate. That's the way it is here in America. Your word against my word. Unless there's something, if it was even brought up to me, Mr. Scarff, when all this was happening, how come you didn't think of taking a tape recorder in and taping? So I'm a Scientologist. You don't go in and tape your bosses. You don't do that.
Well, how about if the people that he turned to just then, if he had talked to them and they said, hey, we're going to put a wire on you and we want you to go back there and get a recording. There's the evidence. What? Pre-crime arrest. Yeah, that's probably the only reason that Tom Cruise did that movie. What was the name of that movie with the precogs? Bro, the German Channel dude is OG. Haha, he is. Yeah, he's been out there for quite some time. And Marcy, thank you for agreeing with me. Put a wire on them, send them back, get the evidence you need.
Law enforcement here in this country think very differently than other places. And it's just that here in America, because the court system is so broad and the laws here can be interpreted in so many different ways, that the police and these are not going to get unless kind of physical evidence that they can take to the court and they can use to prove some kind of criminal activity has happened.
Or written orders, so that from written orders. But they never do written orders for that.
Scientology didn't give me any written orders. They said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put you on plane. I even gave them, I told the district attorney that I had gone to Chicago at one point to do some activities with the OSA people in Chicago. I gave her a copy of the plane ticket. So what? It's just a plane ticket. Big deal.
And so
there's no physical evidence. From what I was told by the police officials here in the United States, I should have gone to Chicago. I should have cut her brake lines. I should have run her off the road and tried to kill her. Then they could have done something. But because simply someone told me to kill her, and it would have been my word against a very powerful organization of Scientology lawyers and officials, my word meant nothing. That's the way it works in this country. And I mean, we are always referring to one case in this country, and that's the O.J. Simpson case. How a black celebrity can murder his wife and an innocent individual and get away with it. Because that's the way things work in this country. It's your word against ours, and it's how you can convince people otherwise. And certainly Scientology attorneys have always said, we never met with him, we never said anything to him, he's never been a Scientologist, despite the fact that I've got evidence to prove it. But they don't even talk about that. They don't talk about the cancelled checks, they don't talk about the money that was paid to me, they just ignore that.
So where you have been born?
I was born in Iowa, which is in the Midwestern part of the United States, and lived most of my life from Florida up until high school, and then from Florida.
So the question came in. Let's show that. Was there ever a rare moment when you thought, why didn't I bring my camera? Yeah, there have been. Well, let me tell you the one that most upset me. I was in Hawaii. Went there because the Psychiatric Association annual convention was going on at a hotel there, and Scientology would likely be out there to protest it. So I flew there with the woman in my life, and we, I was, trying to think, when is this going to happen? When is it scheduled now? No, they're not scheduling it. And so we went on a little boat trip, a glass bottom boat, which was horrible. And it happened then. But I did manage to catch, got back in time. I did catch the Scientologist doing man in the street interviews with a psychiatrist, asking them loaded questions. And they had no idea this was Scientology was going to come back and distort whatever answer they gave. And so I just decided I'm going to at least ruin the shots. So I stood right behind the person who was answering the questions, and they got very upset about that. But man, not upset as I was. But it wasn't a total loss. I did do interviews with, I think, 3 people there, including Professor Stephen Kent, and there was a psychiatrist who went on camera to do a lengthy interview. So I did get some good stuff there. Very dangerous conversation, actually. How did you experience that? Are you talking about the questions that were being asked, or is this relating to something else maybe that Gary said? My experience with that was, I want to stop this interview. And then I told them, listen, these are Scientologists who are going to go back and distort everything you said. And he went, okay. Anyway, hey, Lisa in Brooklyn. Hey, nice to see you. Welcome. I would say you missed all the fun, but you really haven't. Here we go. We're going back to more of Garry Scarff. I swear to you. We're doing it right now.
Moved to Portland, Oregon, where I went to school. And after 16 years in Portland, Oregon, I moved to Florida, where I spent 5 years, and now in Los Angeles, where I used to work at the time that I was living in Portland, worked for Scientology, built in Portland in Los Angeles. But I lived primarily in Portland, Oregon.
And what was your education? Did you study it?
Yes, I have a college degree, a bachelor's degree in criminology in Portland, Oregon, and a master's degree in public administration from the State University.
And when did your history with the Scientology organization started? How did you came in?
Informally back in 1978, where I was doing some volunteer stuff for Scientology, but I wasn't that involved because I was more involved in my college education. But in 1982 is when I signed a staff contract with the Mission of Davis. The McKay were involved in Scientology, started a history that I very much regret.
What have been your first jobs within the organization?
I was working with the register and recruiting people into the organization. That was going out passing out flyers, talking to people about Scientology, encouraging their tape work. They still do as the personality test. That went into raising money for the church. Because I was a financial aid recipient, receiving government funds to go to school, I learned how you could play around with the documents, and Scientology already had a history of doctoring statements and getting monies illegally, and I learned how to do that myself. So I was actually teaching Scientologists how they could apply for government loans and grants deceptively. And once they receive that money, they turn it over to Scientology. They never went to school. The money simply went to Scientology. Mm-hmm. And so I became involved in that with them. Also, Scientology doesn't like the fact that critics are publishing books and magazine articles about them, and they make every attempt to stop it. And if, in fact, articles and books are published, they will send Scientologists into the libraries, into the bookstores, wherever there's magazines that are critical of them, and they will tear the pages out of the magazines when they wish to the books. And so I would go into the libraries. Having worked part-time while in college doing a library, I learned how they put the security strips on books. So a person can't walk out of the library without sending off an alarm. And I learned how they did that. So I also taught other Scientologists where to look for the metal strips that they put into books. So you could walk into a library, remove the metal strip, and walk out of the library with a book. And the library would not have any books for called Scientology. In fact, when I left Scientology, I wrote a letter to the library book system in Portland, Oregon, informing them about this operation where Scientologists walk into libraries and they review books like critical Scientology. And the head librarian wrote me a letter saying, in fact, it was like 24 books in the library critical of Scientology were no longer there, that they just disappeared. And I said, well, that's because Scientology destroys the materials. So the public only sees L. Ron Hubbard books and books on Scientology to promote Scientology. Anything critical is immediately removed and destroyed.
And who gave this order to?
This comes down from the Office of Special Affairs, which used to be the Guardian's Office, but because the Guardian's Office was in a lot of turmoil back in the 70s when 11 of the top executives within the Guardian's Office were arrested, convicted, and thrown in prison for committing felonies, it was a bad public relations move for Scientologists, so they changed the name of the office, but they didn't actually change the office itself. So the activities continued, but the name changed to the Office of Special Affairs to give it a nice sounding name. And it came directly from the Office of Special Affairs headquartered in Los Angeles.
And who was the head at your time when you started there in 19?
Well, the head at that time was Mike Rinder, although I didn't have a lot of contact with Mike Rinder. My terminal was David Butterworth, who was head of OSA for the western section of the United States, and David answered directly to Mike Rinder. But all of my orders came through David Butterworth.
And that means that Mike Renner is now the boss for over 20 years.
Yes.
For the Office of Special Affairs, for the Secret
So
Service.
he's always been in charge of the Office of Special Affairs. There has been a lot of questions about the executives in the church moving around, assuming different positions. Similarly, in public interviews, when they've talked to some of the Office of Special Affairs, they have made references to Kurt Weiland and to Norm Starkey and to other people in the church. But Mike Ringer has really been the director. Anything that is done throughout the world dealing with any type of intelligence activity, illegal activity on behalf of the Church of Scientology always has to have the approval of Mike Rinder. Nothing goes without Mike Rinder's approval. If in fact someone commits an illegal act for Scientology and Mike Rinder hasn't approved it, that person you don't see anymore. That person is removed from his post, he's used for RPF, he's sent to Happy Valley, and he's punished because Mike Rinder is the sole individual who has to put his stamp of approval on every action that takes place throughout the world with any type of intelligence activity. It's a big job for him, but he enjoys doing it.
And does his boss is right now David Miscavige?
That's correct.
And is he giving him the orders? Or is Miscavige knowing what Rinder is doing? Is he informed?
He's not informed of everything that Rinder does, but he pretty much trusts Mike Rinder. Because Mike Rinder, you have to understand, grew up in Scientology. Is second generation Scientologist, meaning that he grew up in Scientologist as a kid. He really knows nothing else outside of Scientology because he grew up in the church. He was born and grew up in the church. And there's enough trust in Mike Rinder that Miscavige doesn't have to put his stamp of approval on everything that Mike Rinder does because he trusts it. And that's just the way it is with Mike Rinder. People, he is trusted by David Miscavige.
So you worked from the beginning on for the Office of Special Affairs for the Secret Service?
Off and on, I wasn't that involved with OSA. I did some things that came under the tutelage of the Office of Special Affairs, but I wasn't that intimately involved with them until 1990 and 91 when they decided they wanted to destroy the Cult Awareness Network.
What is the Cult Awareness Network?
The Cult Awareness Network is a national organization, very legitimate organization that reached out to families and people that were affected by religious cult organizations. They were also a national clearinghouse information for churches, schools, community centers, for law enforcement people wanting to know more about cults.
And how important was that
It
organization?
was an extremely important organization. It was really the only legitimate organization that one could call to get legitimate information on a religious organization or cult organization. And because the Cult Awareness Network saw Scientology as one of the most terroristic, aggressive, intimidating cults, Scientology decided to pour all their money and aggressive efforts into destroying the Cult Awareness Network. By bankrupting it financially, by suing it. They filed well over 35 to 40 lawsuits against the organization, to tie it up in court, to force it to pay attorneys' fees and court costs, and to bankrupt it. And also to attack members of the organization. For example, they ordered me to go and murder 2 of the top members of the Cult Awareness Network, one being the director, and the other one being an attorney who had brought litigation against Scientology that was a member of the Coastal Notice Network. Now, decisions have been made by Scientologists that one, while we were just testing his faith to see if he would really do it, to see how faithful he was with Scientology. The other suggestion has been made, well, we were just joking. We would never tell anyone to do that. Scientology does not joke, particularly within OSA. They don't joke around. When they tell you to do something, you do it. And if you don't do it, then you're thrown off your post and you're punished. They don't joke like that in Scientology.
And how dangerous do you think is the Office of Special Affairs under Mike Rinder?
It's a very, very dangerous organization. Scientology is the most horrendous, terroristic cult, criminal organization that exists today, primarily because it puts so much money into its public relations efforts. It uses its celebrity members to promote this wonderful church that it is. They have no problem with deceiving, misrepresentation, or lying about what they're up to. They have a very strong belief in acceptable truth. Acceptable truth meaning that if I convince you, if I'm lying to you, but I convince you that I'm telling you the truth, then that is acceptable truth and it's okay. Which is why they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars lobbying our congressmen, our senators, of pulling the wool, so to speak, over the eyes of Madeleine Albright and our service, our U.S. Foreign Service Department. Because right now, Madeleine Albright has made statements condemning Germany for persecution of Scientology. Well, Madeleine Albright is an idiot, because there's enough history out there to show what Scientology is up to and what they're trying to do in Germany, here in America, and otherwise. And Madeleine Albright has simply put up her hand and said, I don't want to see it. I'm going to do things the way that I will do it. And either she is incredibly stupid or she has been paid off by Scientology. It's got to be one or the other.
And is there a direct influence from the Office of Special Affairs headquarters here in Los Angeles for Germany, for German critics, for German government people who are against Scientology, or try to inform the public about the real background of Scientology?
I don't understand your question.
How do they get the order? Are there the same things going on in Germany against critics, organized from here than here in the United States? Is it the same quality?
You have to understand that anything that happens throughout the world with the Office of Special Affairs always comes out of Los Angeles and from Mike Rinder. In fact, when I was in Germany last February and I picketed the Munich org of Scientology, I was informed when I came back here to America that within 10 minutes, Kurt Weiland, who was one of the top executives of Scientology International, was informed that I was in Munich picketing the org there. 10 minutes that he found out that I was picketing the org. Anything that happens in Europe, Asia, the Mideast involving Scientology, anything involving OSA has to come through the international branch here in Los Angeles. And Mike Rinder becomes aware of it, or Kurt Weiland, that Mike Rinder is not available. Kurt Weiland will either approve or disapprove of a certain action. So anything that might have happened to me, although I was not assaulted in any way in Germany, had I been assaulted by a Scientologist in Germany, that would have had to have had the approval of someone here in Los Angeles. And they didn't approve it.
And how far are they going with their spy work against critics? How far is Mike Rinder going with his orders?
They have no...
To everything, or
You have to understand in Scientology, everything is based upon a win. Scientology has to win no matter what costs. Scientology likes to play games with words. They have policies that are very specific that they have to follow. These policies were written long ago by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder, the messiah of Scientology. Anything that L. Ron Hubbard writes cannot be changed. It can be amended to make it sound better to the public, but it cannot be changed. Back in 1967, L. Ron Hubbard developed a policy called the Fair Game Policy, which said when it comes to critics or suppressive people, suppressive persons, they can be tricked, lied to, sued, or destroyed without any punishment to the Scientologist that seeks to destroy or hurt a critic of Scientology. Now, because that made such a bad public relations move for Scientology and the media, they said, well, we came out with a policy canceling that policy. Well, in Scientology, you cannot cancel policies. You can simply change the wording so it doesn't sound as bad. So they came out with an order saying that we will no longer use the fair game words. However, the way we treat critics has not changed. That came out in the second order, which shows that the fair game policy, even though it's not being called fair game, is still in effect, and they're still pulling the same crap, the same criminal activity that they've done for 20 years. So when they have said, we're going to go after Garry Scarff, we're going to go after every critic of Scientology, we're going to trick them, we're going to sue them, we're going to destroy them, they mean it. And they're going to continue to follow that until it happens.
and as you know,
All right. Just to bring people up to speed, Garry Scarff, somebody who was in Scientology, out of Scientology, in, out. We never knew whether we could trust him or not. And he, sometimes would tell some lies. Take all of this with a grain of salt. I don't know how much of this is completely true or fictional, but it is an interview that he gave to German filmmakers that we're watching right now. And we are getting back to it at this moment.
it could also go as far as try to kill them.
Yes, definitely. They have claimed that I am this psychological, pathological liar, which, by the way, is not unusual because any person that leaves Scientology, who is an ex-Scientologist, that shows the courage to speak up against them, is always labeled a liar, is always labeled a pathological individual, a sick individual. That's just common. They use that toward any critic of Scientology. In fact, Mike Rinder has said in open interviews to a national audience, in his opinion, and understand that he is a top executive in Scientology that is the one rubber stamping criminal actions throughout the world on behalf of Scientology, Mike Rinder has said, every person that criticizes us is a criminal. And he has to have some kind of criminal activity in his background. We're going to find it and we're going to expose it. What Mike Rinder does not tell you is, if we can't find that criminal activity, we're going to make it up. And we're going to create it for you and put it out there. Which is why innocent people have been slandered and have been hurt by being accused of being child molesters, of abusive people, of committing criminal acts which they didn't commit. Scientology loves to do this. And unfortunately, because Scientology is based in Los Angeles, in the United States, it makes perfect sense for them because here in America, you can get away with so many things that you can't get away with in Europe because we're a democracy here. Democracy. And democracy means different things to different people. To Scientology, it means we can continue to break the laws, to challenge the laws, and do all these wonderful, dirty things to people and get away with it. And so far, they've pretty much gone unchallenged. After all,
Right. So, coffee first, please. This is 1998 in LA, German filmmaker interviewing Garry Scarff. And Jeff, can I describe what Rinder thought of Gary? I don't think I ever talked to Rinder about it. He may have written some stuff about Gary over the years, but I can't imagine by the time he left that he was thinking much of Gary. I think Gary was pretty much out of the picture by the time that Rinder fled Scientology. And was that, let me take a guess. Is it Phoenix Book Girl? I'm not sure what the PHX is. I'm just going to pretend that's it for now, and then you'll correct me. All right. More Garry Scarff. Right now.
Got Madeleine Albright to speak in their behalf. They've gotten President Clinton to speak on their behalf because President Clinton likes celebrities. So what do? They send John Travolta to Washington, D.C. to be nice to President Clinton. And all of a sudden, President Clinton is not willing to hear about all of the people that have been hurt, that have been threatened, that have had their lives destroyed by Scientology. The only thing that our president cares about is John Travolta is in the White House. And we love John Travolta. He's a great actor. So here in America, people are easily fooled by a lot of what comes out in public relations. And Scientology, like I said, will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote that agenda because it works here in America. What they're finding is that it doesn't work in Germany. It's interesting because here in America, we look at Europeans as not being as smart as we are. We have this attitude that the Europeans always have to depend on Americans. And so it's just very interesting that here in America, so many people have been hurt and they continue to be hurt by this major criminal cult organization. Yet in Europe, the people that we see as inferior to Americans are the ones that are actually taking action against Scientology, which has really thrown Scientology upside down because now they're trying to figure out how are we going to do the same things to Germany that we've done in America. And they're finding that very difficult because the German officials are not fooled by what Scientology is perpetuating. And it's too bad that we cannot learn that example here in America.
So it started with the library, with the small things with the library, what you've done inside there for Scientology and for the Office of Special Affairs. What kind of other jobs? Or how did they choose you for these special jobs? Who chose you and why? Why
The
you?
person that I worked with initially was Gwen Mayfield, who was the director of Office of Special Affairs in Portland, Oregon, where I was living. She was in charge of OSA. She answered directly to David Butterworth. And I don't know specifically why they chose me, but I think it was because of commitment. I was dedicated to help them. I was in such a mental state that I wanted to be accepted by them. I was going through a lot of family problems, a lot of personal problems, and they became pretty much my family. And I wanted to impress them. And when they told me to do something, I did it without question.
And what did they promise
That's what
you?
they wanted.
And what did they promise you for that?
They promised me that I would always be accepted. I would be part of the family. I could always go to them if I had a problem. If I was without a job, they would find me a job. Like, the affection was there. And plus, in Scientology, you feel empowered. You feel that you can take on the world and overcome it. You can overcome any problem in Scientology. And that was constantly fed to me. Stay with us and we can help you do that. However, in Scientology, there's always a price you pay for something. You don't get anything for free in Scientology. If they offer you something, it always comes with a tag. And that tag says you're going to have to do something for us or for us to do something for you. And it usually meant doing something illegal. But Scientology kind of joked. They always had a phrase that they used in Scientology. They joked about it. They said, nothing is illegal unless you're caught. And they kind of joked about that. all the time. So if I go out and kill someone and I get away with it, it's not illegal because I've not been caught.
And who developed the plans against the critics, again, or to raise money or to get money in a special way, or this order to kill critics, for example? Who developed the plans? How high it comes the plan from my window?
No, all the Scientologists are pretty much taught from day one, how are we going to benefit the Church of Scientology? So as far as like the minor plans on how we can get money from people, how we can deceive people, the lower level Scientologists are taught to do that from day one. And when you're a Scientologist, it's very hard to explain, but you're not specifically, I mean, I was working for OSA. And when people knew me in Scientology, they knew that I was working for OSA. And there were some people that were very much afraid to be around me because there was a certain power that with being a member of OSA. And to give you an example, there was a person in Portland that I asked to do something, and she said no, and I reported her. She was RPF'd.
To the prison camp or to the working camp?
Exactly, because she didn't know what her to do. There was other people there that knew that if they pissed me off and I complained, they would be RPF'd. So they were afraid of me. In that fact, I worked for OSA. But also, in addition to the specific duties that you have in Scientology, pretty much any Scientologist that is asked to do something that's going to help the church, could be unethical, could be illegal, would come under the framework of OSA. And they would be assisting OSA, although they were not specifically working for OSA. So every Scientologist had their foot basically in the door of OSA, although they didn't work for them. So we would sit down when Mayfield, Angie Mann, who is another OSA operative up in Portland, Oregon, I would sit around and we would develop ideas. What can we do, to further destroy the credibility of people within the Cult of Awareness Network? How can we bring money to the organization? And one of the things that I did is, because I had gained the trust of members in the Cult of Awareness Network, I told her, why don't I just join the Cult of Awareness Network and I will pass every bit of information that I get onto Scientology. And they agreed. And so I went and I met with a couple that was very involved in the Cult of Awareness Network, and I became very close to them, to the point that they were referring to me as their second son. They did not know that I was reporting everything back to Scientology. That they did not know that when I assisted them with fundraising efforts, when they trusted me to be in charge of the money, that the money was disappearing. And when I said, a car was burglarized, or I had been robbed, what had actually happened is I made it look like a robbery or a burglary, and the money was sent to Scientology. And Scientology accepted that with glee. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world, while the people that lost the money were in deep pain and were hurt. In fact, it's been almost 8 years now since I have not been involved in Scientology, and some of those people that I hurt continue to hate me and have no respect for me whatsoever, because I caused so much hurt and so much pain. And there are people today that talk to the media about Scientology that refer to Garry Scarff in the worst possible terms, because I hurt them so badly when I was in Scientology. That's how deep it gets when it comes to Scientology. And Scientology looks at it and they laugh. They think it's funny. When people die, they laugh. They think it's funny. When Lisa McPherson died in Clearwater, they kind of laugh at that and they say, so what? She wanted to leave Scientology. She was no value to us anymore. So what? She died. Ha ha ha. Let's move on. What does that tell you about people in Scientology? It's not a healthy organization by any means.
And how this went on with your jobs for OSA, how they developed after that?
After they saw that I was taking responsibility and following through on things that I had committed myself to doing, and they saw that they could trust me, I went on to doing other things. certain things that I'm not at liberty to talk about, that which I have an attorney representing me for, because things that I could still go to prison for if they came out into the light. It's also presented a very interesting relationship with Scientology that I have now, because Scientology executives know that they could come out and they could expose me to certain prosecutions with the federal government for crimes committed years ago. But they also know that if they do that, I'm going to turn them in. And so if Garry Scarff goes to prison, so will some Scientology executives.
For example?
Huh?
For example?
I'm not going to go into the specific incidences, but they know that there's certain things that I have over their heads, and they also have it over my head, so it's kind of like a detente situation. If they come after me on certain situations that are going to get into trouble with the authorities, I'm going to turn it on them, and they're going to go and face the same troubles I face with the authorities. So I'm not going to even talk about it. I've been in numerous depositions in the courts where I have been told and even ordered to talk about them, and I have absolutely refused to talk about it. Because in my personal opinion, I feel that I was brainwashed when I was in Scientology, that I was acting on orders of Scientology to impress Scientology. My whole world was to impress Scientology, and that's why I did it. And I'm not willing to go to prison for something that I did for this criminal court organization.
I understand that. And how worked this Ken case going on? Who developed the plan to, at the end, for this order to murder?
Initially, they created what they call Plan 100, and the idea was for the Church of Scientology International to fund individual lawsuits in the name of individual members. Because as an organization or as an entity here in America, an organization cannot file 100 lawsuits against another organization. However, individual members of Scientology can do that. So what they did is they chose 100 of their most trusted members, and they funded lawsuits against the Cult Awareness Network. Now, that was the plan. The plan was 100 lawsuits against the Cult Awareness Network, and to continue 100 lawsuits. So if one or two were dismissed, two more would pop up, and they would keep 100 lawsuits going at any one time to bankrupt CAN. They never got to the 100 lawsuits. They did get up to, I believe, 29 lawsuits. And they found that that in itself was very costly just to fund 29 lawsuits. But they did sue them 29 times. Not only the Cult Awareness Network, but Cynthia Kisser as an individual.
Who was Cynthia Kisser?
Cynthia Kisser is the executive director of the Cult Awareness Network, who was coming out on national television speaking out against Scientology on numerous occasions.
That means she was the main enemy for Scientology
That's
in the United
correct.
States
That's
for
correct.
years.
And so they sued her individually in addition to suing the organization. But because she worked for the Cult Awareness Network, the Cult Awareness Network was basically responsible for her. So the Cult Awareness Network ended up having to pay her legal fees as well. While the Church of Scientology was still upset with the fact that here in America, our courts worked very, very slowly. And even though they were suing the Cult Awareness Network and it was going through the motions, it dragged on and on and on. And here in America, a court case can go 10 to 12 years before anything is settled. This really upset David Miscavige. This upset the attorneys for Scientology, that they wanted to do something quickly that would really send a response to the Cult Awareness Network that it's time to close shop. So a meeting was held with Scientology attorneys in Los Angeles. I was invited to the meeting by Eugene Ingram. I went to the meeting not knowing what was going on, because I had met with Scientology attorneys before, because they had planned for me to be one of the 100 lawsuits. In fact, they had actually drafted a lawsuit with my name on it to sue the Cult Awareness Network. And while that was still being looked at and the lawsuit written up, we had this meeting, and it was shared with me that it was time for a more immediate response to the cult awareness network. And the way to really knock down the cult awareness network was to go after the person that was really holding the cult awareness network up. If we could get her out of the picture altogether, the cult awareness network would collapse, because she was really the glue that was holding the organization together. So it was decided, and it did not come out, let's kill her. Let's just kill her.
Who said that?
Rick Moxon, who is one of the top in-house attorneys for the Church of Scientology, said, what if we just cut her brake lines? If we cut her brake lines on her Ford Bronco, she'll lose control of the vehicle and she'll hit a tree, or she'll run off the road and she will die. And people are kind of joking about how we can get rid of her. And it was also commented, well, just because you lose control of a vehicle and you run off the road and crash doesn't mean you're going to die. So it was also talked about, well, why doesn't Gary have a pillow with him? He'll follow the car. Cut the brake lines. If she stays on the road, take the car and knock her off the road. Check her out afterwards, after she crashes. If she's still alive, stick a pillow over her face. Or drag her out of the car and stick her into the water and drown her. I mean, people were joking about the different ways you can kill a person. But it was decided that we need to take care of Cynthia Kisser, get her out of the picture. And
In which office did this happen?
this happened in the office of Bowles and Moxon, which is now called Moxon and Bartleson.
Is this good in the office of special affairs?
This was actually in the headquarters of the Church of Scientology here in Los Angeles. But because so many negative criminal things have been pointed and focused on this office, in the offices in the Church of Scientology, they got smart and they moved that office out of the Church of Scientology and they put it in a distant city in the LA area called Glendale. They moved it to another location so it would draw away from the fact that it was part of Scientology.
So you get the order in Glendale.
No. I got the order here at the Church of Scientology International. But it was after I testified on court record about the murder conspiracies and the plans to kill Cynthia Kisser and also to kill Ford Green. And other people started testing the fact that there were unexplained deaths in the past. And all of this stuff started to come up about Scientology's conspiracies and criminal activities. Scientology got upset and decided, well, people are looking at this law office, and the law office is sitting right in the core of Scientology. And people are going to think, well, it must be true because it's sitting right in the Scientology building. So they thought by moving the law office out of the Scientology building and making it a separate office somewhere else, that people would not draw a connection between the law office and the Church of Scientology. And even today, Rick Moxon says, I'm a Scientologist, but I only work for Scientology. I am not doing what Scientology is telling me to do.
But he's
Which is
it's
a
untrue.
total lie. It's a total fabrication.
He's a high OSA official.
He is a high OSA official. Lori Bartleson was a high official of Scientology. And in fact, I don't think it's Moxon Bartleson anymore. I think it's now Moxon and Coburn. Helena Coburn has stepped in. So it's like the third change that has taken place in Scientology since I left.
And how is Mike Grinders or Kurt Weiland's involvement in that murder order for you? Is he involved in that thing, or did she know?
I don't know
what he's
if
doing?
Mike Grinder himself was aware, but after the meeting was over, I had some real thoughts, particularly when they're telling me all we want you to do. Because you have to understand the frame of mind that I was in is that I felt very blessed, one, that they would bring me into a meeting with all of the Scientology attorneys. But the fact that all they said is, Gary, we want you to fly to Chicago. We will fly to Chicago. We will teach you how to cut the brake lines on an automobile. And all you have to do is cut them and follow her. And if she's still alive, all you have to do is put a pillow over her face and smell her. No big deal. What they're asking me to do was to kill a person, which is the most serious thing you can do to somebody. But they were saying, let's do it easy. follow them and put a pillow over their head until they stop breathing. It's no big deal.
Like that, how
That's
talking
how they presented it to me. And if you do that, you will be a hero in Scientology. And then I was telling my friend, who I thought was my friend at the time, Eugene Ingram, I have some problems with this. We need to talk. Because at that time, I pretty much saw Eugene Ingram as a father figure, someone that I could talk to. Because even though Eugene Ingram is a top security official for Scientology, he is not a Scientologist himself. And so there were some things that Eugene and I could talk about that he did not agree with Scientology officials on, and we would talk about. But at the same time, there's some that I could talk to it. And I said, Eugene, I don't know. We need to talk. But as I was exiting Rick Moxon's office, David Miscavige was in the hallway walking towards me with two of his aides. And I said, hello, Mr. Miscavige. And he looked right at me and says, hello, Mr. Scarff. How are you? And I walked up to him and I hugged her. And he hugged me back, which is very unusual because in Scientology, they don't hug officials. And in fact, when I've told other ex-Scientologists that I hugged David Miscavige, they were surprised that I was going to RPF'd on the spot. Because you don't get that close to an official of Scientology, particularly the commander of Scientology. But I did. And I said, I just came out of a meeting with Greg Moxon and the attorneys, and they said, yes, I'm aware. So I know that he knew.
That means Miss Cabbage knew about the killing order.
Yes. I'm convinced of that.
And do you think the order
I could not go to court and say I know for a fact he did because I don't know, but I'm convinced he did because he said he was aware of the meeting. And again, Scientology attorneys, there's a chain of command in Scientology like any corporation. Someone at the bottom level or even at the mid-level is not going to do something unless someone higher up knows about it.
It means Miss Cabbage and Linda knew exactly what the plan was.
Sure, you have to presume that's to be the fact because Scientology is very rigid and very structured, and like any corporation, a mid-level manager is not going to do something if the person over him doesn't know about it. And so I have to presume that they did know about it. And from the past history that I know about Scientology and what has happened in the past, I believe he did know about it. But
And when did that meeting happen?
This happened in 1991, December 14th, 1991.
In Los Angeles on L. Ron Hubbard Way?
On L. Ron Hubbard Way. At that time was Berendo Street, but now it's L. Ron Hubbard Way. And it's funny that I can remember the date, December 14th, just before Christmas. And they wanted me to end the life of a woman. And at that time, it was also brought up that sometimes she drove her car with her child. And I didn't know Cynthia Kisser that well. I didn't know she had children. I didn't even know she was married. And Eugene said, oh yeah, she has a daughter. I said, really? He says, and I said, what happens if a daughter's in the car with her? And he said, well, you'll just have to get rid of the daughter too. Because the daughter sees too, you'll have to get rid of the daughter. So they were telling me in addition to getting rid of Cynthia Kisser, we had to get rid of the daughter that was in the car. Well, it came to me much later on in court deposition, in Scientology talked about this.
Yep. Well, sudden and abrupt end. That was where the tape stopped. So yes, as Kelly was saying, I'm not sure I believe. I pointed out at the beginning, you can't really take Gary at his face value there. I just thought it would be interesting to take a look at this section of Scientology history, because Gary was around causing trouble for some time. The only reason I can assume Gary lacked attention so I could get from both sides. Oh, did we go? Yeah. Oh, it went all the way back to the earlier ones there. Boom. Mark's remastering laboratory will produce the missing video after the abrupt ending. No, that's it. That's all I have. I'm not going to create any AI Garry Scarff. Nobody would want to hug Gary. Well, that may be why he was as he was. Mark is becoming talented at AI generation queries, FYT 54321. Thank you. I've got some more stuff planned. And I have to get Magoo on here to share something. I'm not going to say what. Truth, Haggis. Truth. Nobody would want to hug Gary. Truth. Okay. Got it. Feel like I'm going to sneeze. So stay tuned for that. That will cap off the entire stream tonight. You may have noticed that I was starting to yawn during this. I think I have the energy to answer some questions if there are any other questions you or anything else you want to talk about. Oop. Well, not seeing anything. How about we call it a night? It's hour 51 minutes. That's probably about an hour longer than it needed to be. We could have cut out Gary and just had a nice evening. But I wanted to share that because it's an interesting piece of history that was there on Peter's German News YouTube channel. Seems like there's another interview, at least one more, that I haven't downloaded yet. Frank Oliver did an interview. There may be somebody else too. Those that are actually not time code work product, I can make those look as good as the ones of Stacy Brooks and Jesse Prince. It was interesting. Thanks for going to the trouble of redoing it. Well, you are welcome, Kelly. Anything for you. Justice says this conversation gives an idea about Scientology behind the scenes, as far as it is true. What are your thoughts on Gary's excuse for lying about having ties to Jonestown? JB808 asks. Well, my understanding is that he was sent in to the Cult Awareness Network to infiltrate it by saying he didn't want to say I'm a former Scientologist, but hey, some survivor of Jonestown, and he's there with a sob story. So, she can kind of adopt him and work with him. And as was mentioned earlier by the woman who wrote the book about Jonestown, or a book, Cynthia suggested that she talk to Gary. And so that's the whole process. Get somebody in there, get them on the inside, find out what you can, make things uncomfortable and embarrassing when the truth comes out. So there you go. FYT 54321. To truly explore the world's deepest rabbit hole called Scientology, these unusual and obscure videos are worthwhile. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I would love to hear if Jesse Prince has thoughts on Gary. I don't think any of us who were around at the time have any real positive thoughts on Gary. You just couldn't trust him. He was working for Scientology. He was out. He was at, So I always just assumed don't share anything with Gary. Yes, definitely interesting. Did you know that Mark has a new merch store? Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that. Listen, there's a link right there. You can go, wow, I got to check that out. You should too. I'm sure it's some of the best stuff on the market. Only exclusively sold in this one location on all of TGAC, or TGAC rather than that. I have to stop saying the hard G. Jeff says, also CAN, Cult Awareness Network, Scientology had a female volunteer working at CAN in Chicago. That's right, Laura Terrapin. I haven't thought of Laura Terrapin in a long time. I think that's the name. Yeah, that was during the alt-religion Scientology stuff where we were talking about a lot of that skullduggery. Lupita, if anyone still thinks Scientology isn't dangerous, this video should change that. The lengths they go to are unreal. Kelly asks, do I know anything about Annalisa Scapini? I don't. Jeff, do you know anything? I always turn to Jeff. Jeff knows everything. Jeff is a scholar. I'm a gadfly. Oh, and Jeff doesn't think so, so therefore there's nothing worth knowing. Who is Annalisa Scapini? Let us know. Maybe somewhere in the deep recesses it will trigger. And oh, yes, of course. So Erin posted she is the Chief Staff Ethics Officer of FLAG. I don't think that I've met her. I'm assuming that he's talking about her current position. If I saw a picture, with the picture, she looks absolutely terrifying. Wow. Somebody show me that picture. I could use a good scare. So I've got some more fun stuff coming up. This was kind of homework that I thought I'd share with you. Really enjoyed the Xenu Radio with, oops, there you go, with Pat Harney. I'm glad you liked it. I have just a 4-minute chunk where I condensed our battle over OT. And I put that up. I think it's called Scientology and the Acceptable Truth. So if you don't want to listen to the whole show, you don't have to. I also put up a link today of the full episodes. I was on day 1. She was on day 2. I put them all together into one video. But when I played it here with you before, the longer version of it, I cut out a lot of the stuff that was extraneous. But if you want to hear more about Lisa McPherson and all sorts of other topics, you can watch or listen to the entire shows. So we each had an hour on the air. Without the commercials, it's 45 minutes for each of us. What was for dinner at the Bunker House? I had a few potato chips. I think that was about it. So I have to go get something now. I'm very curious to his real personality. Are you talking about Gary's? I think that's probably about as real as he got. Tori being a caller on the radio show, she was great, always great. Nice to see her kind of pop in there and give Pat Harney a good 1-2 punch. Thank you, Xenu TV and Kelly BC. Oh, you're welcome. We appreciate you coming here and spending some time with us. Richard, you just showing up? I hate to say it because we're all about to say goodnight. It was nothing you did. It wasn't. We didn't see you walk in and go, Run, everyone. Just bad timing. But thanks for coming by here. JB808 says, Lupita, yep, Tori has Pat shook. Had. I do that myself. Can I share that picture of Annalisa? I can. Let me go and click on that. I know you would put the link in here. I didn't have much. Oh, God. It's on Facebook. Let's see. For some reason, I'm not logged in. Everybody, hold on. I'm going to show the scary picture as soon as Facebook will let me on. Log in. It's kind of like Hogan's Heroes. Hogan. Oh, my God. Good Lord. Let me share that. All right. Steel yourself, everybody. Share screen. There we go. Share. Now tell me this is coming through. No, you're not seeing it? Come on. How come it's not being shared? What do I have to do here? I was sharing stuff in the past. Lousy, stinking, filthy. Can I share the picture of Annalisa? Apparently I can't. I don't know why not. How about, oh, maybe if I remove. No, that didn't do anything. Okay. Well, let me describe it for you. She's in a severe dark vest, white shirt, long sleeve, got the pants and got some comfy walking shoes on, and she is looking at the camera like this, without the glasses on. So once you get to Facebook and look for her, you will be horrified as well. You can see it. How come? Oh, fine. There it is. She shared it. Good thing Kelly's here. Got to figure out what's going wrong, because I used to be able to share a page. It's right there. Which tab do you want to share? That one. I'm going and start sharing. Share and black screen. Boom. Was I lying or was I lying? She's given us one of these. All right. Well, I think we should all. Oh, well, I like this. FYT 54 321, world's meanest bellhop. All right. With that, I hope that you have pleasant dreams. It's been fun spending some time with you again. I will try to have something vastly entertaining tomorrow, and not a history lesson. But got to thank Kelly for doing the spectacular job she always does. And I thank all of you for being so kind to Kelly. She deserves it. And appreciate you all stopping by. And I know right now you're probably going to go to the merch store and get yourself some hats and shirts and mugs. Oh my God, you can even get a mouse pad. There's at least 3 different versions. You can get the Xenu TV, the Bunky and Magoo, or I think there's also a Xenu's Playhouse. There you go. Get them all. It's a collector set. All right. Haggis Basher wishes me a good sleep. I appreciate that. JB808 says, thank you, Mark and Kelly. Did I, I know what she's asking. Did I add WBM hoodies? I have not yet. What do you just want one like a WBM on the shoulder here or something, or you want something bigger than that? You go ahead and design it for me. And I will, I'm going to get some hoodies and I'm going to get some hoosies as well. I'll have a special showroom for the hoosies. When was the last time I saw Tori in person? Would love to see a reunion. I don't know. I don't know that I've been back to LA since I moved back here in 2013. I could be wrong about that. I can't remember anything. But I see her in person all the time through the internet. Hope I managed to catch you live properly. Would love to drop by and ask some questions all about this cult, man, says Richard B. Jameson. Is it Jameson or Jameson? I hope it's Jameson. Sorry for the questions at the last minute. Well, the clock's ticking, but I do not. I will stop. I will stay and answer questions. If you want an autograph, I'm here for you. Yep, we're usually here about the same time every night. I don't know if we should do earlier. If there's a better time for this, or not. I'm usually a late night type of guy, but last couple of nights I have not been making it through a lengthy stream. So I think it is time now for me to say good night, everybody. It's been a delight. We are running into Tori. Okay, well, we can do it earlier. Let's give that a shot. And for God's sakes, Tori, it was 7 o'clock when we started there. What's she going so early for? I'll have a chat with her. All right, folks, it's been a delight. See you again soon. Bye.
What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Your crimes are hidden, they should be seen. Spin all out, Mark, and just come clean.